Breaking patterns and habits is a 6-step process. I'm going to break down the steps. Refer back to the workbook. There is a editable document at the very end where you can insert your own information or just print it out and then write in it with a pen or pencil. Step 1, identify your A point. What is one problem area that you're going to work on? I don't recommend working on a whole bunch of these at one time. You can overwhelm yourself. The item I chose to model is students don't have a pencil when I ask them to write. That's your A point. Then you're going to skip down and you're going to identify where you want to end. What do you really want from your student? What is your desired outcome? With the pencil example, I desire my students to have a pencil when it's time to write. Step 3, you're going to identify the triggers. Identify what happens right before your problem area. The problem is that they don't have a pencil when it's time to write. What happens right before that is they're coming in from past period. They sit down to do their work. You've asked them to write. Well, they don't have a pencil. So the trigger here is they just came from past period. Step 4, you're going to remove any triggers before point A. The trigger before was they just came from past period. Well, you can't not let them go to past period. So what you're going to do is modify that a little bit, come up with a plan to do some pre-corrects to make sure that they actually have the pencil as they're coming in. Perhaps you're standing at your door and you're saying, make sure you have a pencil before you come in. Show me your pencil before you come in. Step 5, create an if-then plan. This is the pattern interrupt part. We talked a lot about breaking patterns and habits. A lot of what we're dealing with here is students have habits of reacting to you in certain ways, and you have habits of reacting to students in certain ways. We want to come up with an if-then statement of what we're going to do if that pattern does kick back in. If one of those students show up without a pencil, what are you going to do? So your if-then statement, in this case, is if my students show up without a pencil, then I'm going to ask them to go back to their locker. I'm going to ask them to be a problem solver and ask a friend. Oh, you don't have a pencil? Be a problem solver before you come in. See if you can borrow, figure it out. You can't come in until you have a pencil because you know you're going to need one. Go get one, go figure it out, and then come back. Come on in the room when you've got that pencil for me. And then make them show that to you. You're breaking that pattern, that frustration pattern of they don't have a pencil, holy cow, they can't ever be responsible. You're breaking that pattern of how you typically react to it, and you've come up with a plan of something that you're going to do instead. You're replacing your normal behavioral pattern with a new behavioral pattern. If they do this, then I'm going to do this. Step 6 is real simple, but it's where a lot of teachers fail, and that is stay consistent. Once you set this up, you have to stay consistent. If you ask them to bring a pencil one time, but don't check on them the next time and forget to do the pre-correct and forget to do your if-then statement, then you've done nothing but harm yourself. Set this up and be consistent to make sure you are teaching them every single time they enter your room that you are going to expect the same thing. You are giving them the habit of, oh, I'm going to Mrs. So-and-so's class, I better have a pencil, otherwise she's going to make me go back. You're teaching them a new habit, you're teaching yourself a new habit, and you're being proactive in the way you're doing it. You're not reacting to the situation. You're thinking, oh, this is probably going to happen because this has happened to me a lot. Proactively thinking ahead, and you're coming up with a point A to point B and an if-then statement to get you to where you want to be. Solving your problems, your habits, being proactive instead of reactive. It's really what it takes. Once you've done this with one thing, solved it, and been consistent with it, move on to something else. One by one, knock them all out. Teach it to them, just like we talked about in the last lesson. Show them, don't tell them what you're expecting. Remember that every day, in every way, you are getting better and better at what you do. So take it easy on yourself. Give yourself some credit. This is no easy task. These are hard things, and you are getting better, better, and better.